Going live.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this information session. It's lovely to have you all join us. I think we've all been overwhelmed by the interest in this session and the number of people who are waiting to join us, and we are glad that we can get going. My name is Tracy Kraus. I am the head of department here at the CA Connect team. We're the Department of Professional Accounting at Milpark Education. And in our department, we focus mainly on the postgraduate courses. So that's our bridging program and our postgraduate diploma in accounting, our CTA. This evening, I'm going to be joined by a number of people. Gareth Olivier is kind of going to be leading the sessions. He's here as well. Gareth is one of the founding members of CA Connect. So he's been doing this thing for about 14 years. We're both well into the journey. I joined the team shortly thereafter, so been with them for about 13 years. Come a long way and done a lot of work in this online education space. But we know that most of you who are interested in our programs, interested in knowing more about what we offer and what it's actually like to be on the program, actually don't really want to hear from us. You want to hear from our students. You want to hear from the people who've been through the whole system and who knows how it works. And that's why we're joined by some alumni as well this evening. So thank you so much to Zoe, Charles, and Kirsten for being with us. Tonight's session is really just aimed at giving you a high-level overview of kind of the experience that you can expect in our programs. We know that there will be lots of questions that you'll have about how things work and how I get into it and what textbooks do I need, et cetera, et cetera. And we really do want to help you with all of those questions. We probably won't get through all of them in the hour that we have this evening, but it is our intention to give you a broad sense of the program, give you a taste of what it's like to be in the mix with this team, and we'll give you avenues to get all of those questions answered as well. So you can always check out our website. There's also various ways to contact us, and we'll give you that information. But let's get started without further ado. So over to you, Gareth. Take us away.
Thanks, Tracy. And yeah, welcome everyone. Great to have you on board. So excited from my side to be joined by former students of CA Connect. You can see Zoe, Kirsten, and Charles on your screen. A little bit later in the session, we've got some of the staff coming as part of the chat as well. So guys, really hoping it's a useful and productive hour. And that you enjoy the conversation. In our department, we're not overly formal. So you can see I'm dressed in a t-shirt and I don't have a script. And sometimes we say I'm an R. But the idea is that we are real people and we here to walk the journey with you guys. And that's some of the conversation that we're going to have this evening. And we really hope that you enjoy it. Something you might see at the bottom of your screen is a little tab that says Ask a Question. If you want to pop any questions in there while we're talking, please feel free. Some of the staff of the program are monitoring that, and they'll be happy to engage and chat you through some of those things. But I'm not going to talk a heck of a lot. My role, as Trace said, this evening is to ask the questions. So we're starting off with kind of the three people you see on the screen, Zoe, Kirsten, and Charles. And Zoe, I'm going to start off a little bit with you. You've got a fascinating story in terms of how you got to where you are. It was interesting when I was reading your biography in terms of how you started off on a non-CA route, and I think you finished in 2014, kind of not being on that CA route. And then even before you started on the CA route and with CA Connect Milpark, you started working full-time in 2018, and then you only started studying with CA Connect in 2020. On the bridging course, still while you were working. You then went on to the half workload PGDA in 2021 and 2022. You're a single mom. You got married during 2022 while you were in your final year of PGDA, and you got 3 distinctions from what I see here. Pretty unbelievable story, and I think just amazing to kick off the session by just hearing a little bit from you in terms of balancing articles, being a single mom, and studying. Tell me a bit about your journey and how you were able to do that.
Well, Gareth, it's all about priorities and the drive you have for wanting to do this. I was doing it I am and was doing it for my daughter, and yeah, you just have to figure out what works best for you. And working and studying is tough. I'm sure a lot of people on this chat are in that position where they want to start this journey, but they're not sure how it will work if they are working and studying. That's why I actually chose to do the half workload, because in my position, it wasn't, I didn't have the sufficient hours to fully commit 40 hours a week to the full workload. And yes, it was a longer journey because it took me 3 years in total. But my point of view was I'd rather do it over a longer period initially than try to do it once off, then I fail and have to redo it again. It's a financial burden. And I just from the beginning of the program, the way it's set up, a part of the engagement activities is setting up a timetable, and also planning for emergencies, planning for illnesses, planning for things that can't be planned really. I just made sure that it fit in to my life. I still made time for things that were important to me, but focusing on making sure that I spent the sufficient time on the course.
And that's, I mean, it's fascinating in terms of the fact that, I mean, I can imagine with those ingredients, with working and being a parent and studying, that, as you say, sometimes life happens, and you can't almost take a linear approach. Can you talk a little bit almost about the flexibility on the program and how you were able to design your life in harmony with the program and how that flexibility worked?
Well, that's the gem of Milpark's PGDA. Like, you can do it whenever you want. You can do it early in the morning before work. You can do it after my daughter's gone to bed. You can, if you really want to, stay up late. But I was never one to study late. My brain switched off after about 9:30. Weekends, you have to unfortunately sacrifice some things. But yeah, it was amazing because you didn't have to, I have to attend this lecture at this time. I have to be here at this time. Otherwise, I'm going to miss it. You can go back. You can watch it again if it was something that you're struggling with. I mean, the amount of the different support levels, they were amazing. So whichever one suited you could use. And by scheduling, for example, a typical week would be doing lessons during the week and then tackling practice questions on the weekend when you've got a bit more time, just as an example, where you don't have limited, say now 3 hours or whatever at night. That's what made it amazing, that you could schedule it according to your requirements.
Yeah, that sounds really useful, Zoe. And I'm going to move on to Charles shortly because I know he's got similar input that he'll contribute. But before I get to Charles, in terms of what was I going to say? Yes, I think a lot of students' questions they have around studying online is before they dive into the program, no one really knows kind of what an online program actually is. And how did it feel to you in terms of, I suppose, getting to know your lecturers and just feeling like you knew the people who were almost delivering and facilitating the course to you? Did you feel like you got to know the lecturers? How did it feel to be almost on the journey of PGDA? Because I think sometimes it feels like this massive mountain ahead of us. And kind of what was your experience of the lecturers and the students around you? Zoe? Did you? I think maybe you thought I was asking Charles, but maybe I can ask you, and then I'll get on to Charles as well.
I'm so sorry. No, look, definitely a close connection. I don't know. Well, I'm sure I can say, but I'm also working for Milpark this year as an assistant lecturer, and even from the few days that I've been doing that, I can see the love and the passion and the care each and every single lecturer has for every single student. I also experienced it as a student. I remember closer to test times, if they weren't available for consults, they said, message me directly, we'll make a plan, because they know how we feel. They know the nerves that we have, and it's yes, it is different, but I actually almost feel, coming from a contact university where they had perhaps 500 students, they definitely didn't know us. They didn't have necessarily time to make appointments with us. We had one-on-one time for half an hour. So I almost feel that it's better than a contact university in that sense.
Thanks, Zoe. And Charles, maybe I can come into you and kind of just by way of a little bit of background on you. I mean, from getting to know you a little bit on the program, and you've got an amazing zest for, I suppose, continuous learning and just continual improvement towards kind of just leading a meaningful life. I know you're interested in finance, entrepreneurship, you're big into your innovation. I know half the time when in our program, if we're struggling with tech, then you're always climbing in and helping out, and you're amazing from that point of view. But maybe I can kind of just, you can also share, similar to Zoe, just about your experience on the program and how you found it. I know you came from a contact institution, but we've got a lot of students coming from contact undergrads, some come from distance undergrads. What was kind of your thinking in choosing kind of Milpark?
Thanks, Gareth. So I think, kind of trying to answer this question, it's got lots of different layers to it. As I'm sure everyone knows, like, a decision isn't made in one step. But the one layer is the unhappiness that I had with contact institutions. I just thought that there surely can't be one way to approaching learning and approaching a course. And some of the things that frustrated me was like the fact that I felt sometimes material was withheld, so as to force you to attend lectures, which I thought was a bit backwards. And I also didn't enjoy the fact that lectures were sporadically planned throughout the day. So you had quite a bit of idle time in between lectures, wasted hours, maybe going to the library, doing half an hour, which isn't effective, and then having another lecture. I'll admit I'm quite distractible. I can lose focus quite easily. So just not being able to pause your lecture when you feel like you need a break is something that I wish to kind of solve. And along with that, COVID happened at like the perfect time. So I'd always had these thoughts and wanted to explore alternatives, but I was almost a bit nervous to make the jump, if I could call it that. And then COVID came in the beginning of my last year at my undergrad university, and obviously everyone then went distant. And I think then I learned that I actually am capable of doing it, and that I actually enjoy that method of delivery. Like, to Zoe's point, the lectures are there in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, whenever it suits you, you can do it. So I think that was kind of my first taste to online learning. And then obviously how that was done was kind of a rush, try and patch a hole and like fix something, whereas I knew CA Connect had been kind of working on this, and I know we barely ever speak of perfection, but getting closer to a finished product. So those are a couple of the things that led me to make this decision and do PGDA through Milpark.
Interesting. And Charles, just to dig a bit deeper then into almost your experience as a student on the program, what was your experience of, I mean, did it feel, I guess, like it was kind of you and your computer? Did you feel like you got a sense of the students around you and the lecturers around you? What did it feel like to kind of be a student on the program?
I think being a student on the program was quite interesting. I thought that everything about this program was distant, but I soon learned that method of delivery was the only thing that was distant about this course. Just seeing Yammer, seeing the communities, and having the choice to interact with lecturers in different ways, whether it be by attending live sessions, whether it be by booking consultations or asking questions on Yammer. I think the choice was the biggest thing that I liked in my journey, because I know not everyone learns the same. I, for one, preferred watching the recordings of live sessions and found my interaction with lecturers in other ways. But that's what I really enjoyed about it. And I'm sure everyone else's experience of the course would have been different, but I knew it was always there if I wanted it. That connection was there. So even if I didn't engage as much in some times as I should have or could have wanted to, it was always there as an option. So I never felt alone.
Awesome. Thanks, Charles. Yeah, just really interesting to dig into that. And I mean, one of the fascinating things I think about you is you've completed your PGDA on this program, and subsequently now you working as an academic trainee in management, accounting, and finance, and now almost on the other side of the fence from a lecturing point of view. What have you kind of experienced in almost crossing over from being a student into the lecturing space? And do you have any kind of pearls of wisdom that come to mind in terms of things that you just love to kind of share to students that you wish they knew?
I think, yeah, maybe the first part of this will be a bit funny and might not be appreciated by the other lecturers. But I think I speak for all students when you have these perceptions of what the lecturers do. And I know I'm not the only one, but I used to think okay, well, they do 2 live sessions a week, they answer a couple of Yammer queries, and they just upload lecture videos that are pre-recorded. Doesn't seem too bad. So I think that was the one interesting thing, was coming into the other side of the course and realizing that there's a lot more to it. There are 3 cohorts running pretty much simultaneously, more than, I'm not sure on the exact numbers, but more than 2,000 students, maybe 16 assessments to be set per department. So I think just seeing what goes on behind the scenes was really interesting to me. And then just also getting to know the lecturers who I'd seen from a different perspective and being able to pick their brains. I know you mentioned earlier that I'm interested in innovation. So that was one of the things that I was really interested in finding out more about. I know that Milpark was kind of on the forefront of this developing sector. And at times, I'm sure you would be able to say more about this, but I know at times you guys were almost ahead of the wave and had to wait for technology to catch up. I think you guys weren't you looking at DSTV channels or something for streaming before the days of Teams? So yeah, that was really interesting to me. And then the other side was getting to interact with all the different students, because I think when I was a student, you kind of on your journey, and yes, you see the Yammer posts and stuff like that, but you don't interact one-on-one with a whole bunch of different students. So I think for me, that was quite eye-opening, seeing just the diversity amongst our students, whether it be in where they are. I know we've got some students doing this from Amsterdam, France, just ridiculous to think. But yeah, also just seeing different circumstances, different backgrounds. For some people, they might have gotten straight 80s in undergrad and then wound up in PGDA. And for other people, this might be their 5th or 6th time doing PGDA. So I think just getting an appreciation for who this course services, and just learning a lot more about other people, and in turn learning more about myself.
Yeah, it's amazing. And if I reflect on almost why I 100% resonate with a lot of what you say, Charles, in terms of what I love about my job. I mean, if I think about the diversity of the students we have, it really, the stories never cease to amaze me. And I mean, that's why I love chatting to you guys and hearing your stories, and whether it's guys from distance education backgrounds, contact education backgrounds, done things once, done things 20 times. I think what I love about the program is it's almost this melting pot of diversity. And I think there's a lot of power in that. almost in that the community getting together, and when we create almost a course where the community is pivotal, because I mean the CTA and bridging is hard, and I think a lot of the design that goes into it is almost figuring out how we can create an atmosphere where we feel like we're doing this together, that it's not just you and your computer, that it's yes, you are doing this, but you're with the lecturers, you're with the students around you, and I think when you feel some of that momentum, I think that's kind of can be the stuff that just really pushes you to get through and helps you to kind of keep the belief that it is doable. Kirsten, I'm going to move on to you. You've been sitting there very patiently as we've chatted, and you've got a fascinating story, because I think a while ago on the CA Connect Facebook and Instagram and pages and LinkedIn, Hanley was sharing your story, and there were so many questions about you because you came from a food science background, if I'm not mistaken, and from food science you then came into the bridging program and then to PGDA. You were also working at the same time. And you ended up in the top 10 of the program, which is phenomenal. Can you build a little bit onto kind of that journey and how you experienced the program?
Yes, thanks, Gareth. So yeah, my journey is extremely different to most, and it kind of taught me that anything is possible. So when I was doing my BSc in food science, nothing wrong with the degree. I could see how much everyone around me loved it, but it just wasn't for me. And I went into admin and I said, can I change? And this was in my second year. And they said, well, if you change, you're going to go back to year one next year. So it was kind of like, okay, well, in 8 years, I can essentially have 2 degrees, or if I change, I'll have my BAc in 6 years. And it was kind of like, well, you're halfway, you can't stop now. And when that happened, I decided, okay, cool. Well, if I really want to do this, let's start by taking financial accounting as an extra module and see if it's actually something you want to do. And I started that in my second year and absolutely loved it, and continued through the 3 years of the financial accounting until I finished my 4th year of food science at the end of 2020. And after then, it became clear food science, it's not going to happen. And I wanted to pursue my love for accounting. And I chatted to a couple of people of how I can approach this, and am I going to have to start again? As the contact university I went to said, well, you're starting in year one next year. And I thought, okay, well, if that's my only option, we're going to have to do it. And a couple of people said, well, why don't you try CA Connect? They got this online path and it might be something that you can do. And I thought, okay, let's give it a go. And didn't think I was going to make it in, but I did, and completed the bridging in 2021. And I was really worried that I was going to have a lot of gaps, because obviously I hadn't done management, accounting and finance, or tax or auditing. And the bridging course really filled in those gaps for me. I was able to successfully complete it with a lot of surprise from a lot of people, but it happened. And then, got into the PGDA, and I got this opportunity to work and study at the same time. And I thought, okay, well, this is going to be a little bit hectic. And I did consider doing it over 2 years, but I thought, okay, well, I don't know what the decision came about, how it came about to doing it in 1 year, but it did. And I think it is possible to do work and do PGDA in 1 year, but you do need to have a lot of self-discipline, self-motivation, and realize that you do need to prioritize, and you're not going to be able to do everything. So that was kind of challenging, but it definitely is possible. So yeah.
And Kirsten, that realization that you're not, almost, as you say, like the world's infinite, you're not able to do everything, especially if you're working. What was the process almost of navigating that? Did you chat to lecturers? Did you chat to students around you? Like, how did that look and feel in the program, and how did you navigate those struggles or tensions?
So I obviously consulted quite a few lecturers about it. And everyone I spoke to was super helpful, and I spoke to family and friends, and everyone kind of gave me what they thought would be best. But I think it comes down to doing what suits you best, because everyone obviously works and studies in their own way. And I think for me, I realized, okay, work doesn't stop. Yes, you finish at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, but it doesn't stop there. There's always a deadline, or there's always someone needing something more from you. And for me, it was, let's do it in the morning. And that's where the self-discipline and self-motivation came in. It was setting the alarm very early in the morning to make sure that I got everything done before I went to work. And then it also gave me some time to have time with friends and family after work. So I think it's about choosing what works best for you, and obviously taking advice from those around you, but it does come down to what's going to work for you.
And Kirsten, I'd imagine that in amongst all this life stuff that you're navigating while studying, things don't always go as planned. Or I don't know, did they? Do you have any examples of where you had to be adaptable?
I feel like I was really lucky in the sense that it did go to plan. There were definitely a few breakdowns along the way, and I had to readjust and reprioritize. But I think it comes back to, you always got to remember why you're doing this and why you want this. And I think it helps you to overcome any hurdle that you may have.
That's a great answer. And I think it's something we speak about quite a lot in the program, I suppose, I suppose that's why it's so important, I guess, to do this program as a community and feel supported from the students around you and the lecturers, because I mean, the reality is, I think what a lot of you guys are kind of pointing towards is the program is tough, and there's no getting away from that. And whether you do it with us or elsewhere, it's really going to be blood, sweat, and tears. But the things that get you through is remembering that objective, I suppose. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to be a CA? Why is this important from a life goal perspective? And then doing it together, figuring it out with the students around you, with the lecturers, and just kind of walking the path together. Guys, thanks so much. I think what I'm going to do now, Honey, if we could, I'm hoping to loop around again to Zoe, Kirsten, and Charles, but maybe if we could move a little bit into almost the next session of the webinar. And guys, I've got two more amazing people to bring in. We've got Rian Mabuta, who is the head of, or the subject head of taxation in the PGDA and Bridging course. And then we've actually got a really interesting person, Terry, who's also on our staff, but I'm not going to give away the secret yet in terms of what her role is. She's not a CA, but she plays a fundamentally important role. There's Rian. I see you, and we should see Terry Lee popping up just now. Terry, we see you. Terry, I've kind of kept everyone in suspense. I've told them you are a permanent staff member on our program, but you are not a CA. Tell us more.
So I think you did consider becoming one. Hey, Terry.
Yeah,
you considered this word.
Like when I was in high school, I considered becoming a CA. Yeah. Yeah. So can I go ahead and introduce myself?
Yeah. Tell us about the role that you play.
Yeah, so I'm Terry Lee Raycliffe. Good evening, everyone. I'm the Student Support and Development Advisor for the Department of Accounting. And part of my role entails providing students with holistic support that caters to their well-being and that possibly adds value to their learning journey, such as providing them with guidance in understanding how they can learn and organize their studies, how they can manage their time and anxieties, as well as maintaining a positive mindset. As Gareth mentioned, I am not a CA. I definitely know nothing about IFRS or Kings. I know that IFRS is your accounting book of life, I think. I studied psychology and qualified as a registered counselor, working in the education sector kind of soon after that, with individuals who had cognitive reading and learning difficulties. In this work context, the focus was not only on improving individual skills, but also adding value to their self-esteem, their mindset, their personal growth, and overall development. And I feel that the programs that we offer touches on very similar aspects of what I was previously exposed to, in terms of how support assists in students maintaining a positive mindset and contributes to the overall success on our programs. And as with all studies, our programs could really test one's ability, could really test your mindset. So my hope is to ensure that students have access to various forms of support in order to thrive whilst they are part of our programs.
And Terry, just maybe give everyone a sense of kind of when we speak about support and students being supported, kind of give us a sense, I suppose, on the types of support mechanisms that are available depending on kind of what each person or group needs.
Yeah. So we do encourage students to seek support that works best for them and fits into their learning journey. Support could be one-on-one consultations with our lecturers, with myself, me being more in the capacity of anything that has nothing to do with accounting and more leaning into how to assist you with being successful on the program. We also have group sessions for all cohorts to share insights and their experiences while they are tackling different stages of their learning journey. We also offer our students the opportunity to seek guidance from a registered counseling psychologist. And we also have on the PGDA, we have mentorship programs as well as student reps. So yeah, like there's a wealth of support options. I can go on and on. There's also a lot of places for you guys to like build community, to reach out to one another in the form of study groups, and things like that. So I hope I touched on a couple of them, Gareth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Terry. And I suppose what's on a lot of students' minds at this stage, we kind of beginning of the year, we've kind of January's already happened. Where did January go? I still don't really know. But we're sitting at kind of the beginning of the year, and we're thinking, oh man, like programs are about to start or have already started. Based on your experience and chatting to students, because I know you day to day involved in the programs and chatting to the students kind of every day and really walking the journey with them. What's kind of great stuff that students can do like right now, this evening, tomorrow, in terms of setting themselves up for success?
Before I get into that, I think when students join our programs, what I find is that they often have this idea of what the year is going to look like, how they're going to conquer everything. And sometimes many are just surprised by the fact that it's often not going to go exactly in the direction they envisioned. And that being said, I think it's important for students to come into this space and assess how they are going to tackle this challenge in a way that works best for them. And in saying that, one of the key things I'd like students to achieve in this space is to recognize when it is time to ask for help, recognize when you are not coping, because it's okay to not be okay. You guys are not meant to do this entirely on your own, and we are here to offer you support, guidance, and insight in the best way possible. One thing I'd like to add is just when you are starting the program, to kind of try out the different forms of support, see what's available to you, and then decide what fits into your learning journey. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks, Terry. I think, guys, a few of you are probably waiting almost for us to get onto the serious academics. So I'm going to bring Rian on in now as our subject head for taxation. And Rian, I mean, you've got a fascinating story in terms of you've been lecturing forever. I can't remember if it's 40 or 45 years, but it's very long. I think you were previously lectured at WITS, UCT. You joined our program, kind of taking the jump into online education, April 2022. Tell us a bit about kind of your journey. I mean, just from a lecturer's point of view, it must have been a big jump coming from kind of contact education into this sort of space. How have you kind of experienced that?
Yeah, thanks very much, Gareth. And I just want to correct Teddy on her earlier statement in which she said that IFRS is everything. It's the tax registration that is everything. I might be surrounded by a group of...
Careful, Rian. There's still more free people here.
Tax is good. Tax is life. It's an important part of these things. So thanks very much. Gareth, Tracy, Teddy, good seeing you guys. Yeah, sort of my background, wish 45 years of experience, not necessarily the case, but yeah, I spent some time at WITS beforehand, then spent almost 9 years at UCT, and then took a leap into the online learning environment and space last year, and being enjoying it ever since then. No doubt, being within the online space, it's very different compared to the residential university environment, and it's something to get used to. No doubt about that. There's no classroom that one's going to ultimately, and I think in the fact that there's no classroom that one's going to, there's an important part of building community that's very important, and which underpins a lot of what we do. I mean, I think it's important sort of latching onto what Zoe and Charles had said. You're not sort of like left on your own in this particular environment. One sort of just thinks that, well, there's a bunch of recordings, off you go and things like that, and we're going to chill and enjoy ourselves in this regard. It's not necessarily that case. There's lots of intentionality behind what we do, and why we do it, and building that community that's underpinned by our values of caring, learning, striving, and being real is important for us in this regard. I think also another important thing that I should just make about this online learning environment is I initially also thought that I was being disconnected from students, but I thoroughly enjoyed the one-on-one sessions that I've had with students. I've grown closer with students in the live sessions, far more than what I would have in the university space. And I suppose my final takeaway point, I can speak a lot, clearly lecture tax in this regard. But I think my final takeaway point as well is that there's a clear distinction between, online learning, and I think Charles mentioned this, and emergency remote teaching, which many students underwent, in 2020 and to some extent in 2021 as well. I think in terms of the CA Connect offering, it's really underpinned by sound understanding of what the pedagogy is online learning. It's not just a case of, well, off you go, students, go and learn the stuff. I mean, it's quite deliberate and intentional in terms of the building blocks that are put in place for students to succeed, at least in this regard. I'm liking Tsaka's comment there, the tax and deaths are the only guarantees in life, as well as load shedding in South Africa. I mean, it's
just actually started for me. I think it's 6 o'clock, so I'm feeling quite relieved that I'm still with you guys at the moment, despite the load shedding. Rian, something that I think a lot of people don't know about you is I think you do, in addition obviously to being a full-time lecturer in kind of the CA Connect program, you do a lot of work with SAICA, and I think it's kind of a hallmark of a lot of the lecturers in the program that we're not only involved in almost delivering kind of this specific program and kind of assisting students in the journey to being a CA, but we're actually involved in leading the profession and shaping what future CAs look like. I think at the moment you're involved in there's the ITC marking that's on the go, there's accreditation of other institutions, there's an interesting project we're working on reconceptualizing what ITC is going to look like in 2025, and leading the way on that. How does that sort of fit into the work that you do and the aspects that you enjoy?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Gareth. Yeah, in the midst of finishing APC marking at this point in time, that's the first one we tick off, and then the next one is off on to ITC later on in Feb and then in March. But I mean, it's an important part of the work that we do, that there's close alignment in terms of what we do and the end product ultimately which we're delivering students into ultimately, and that is the ITC as well as the APC. And the opportunity that I've got in both the ITC as well as the APC, where I'm a senior marker on both of those as an umpire and leading marking teams in determining what competence looks like, it gives me the opportunity to bring it back, and it impacts on the way that we teach at Milpark, and the way that we assess as well, and so sets up our students for success in this regard, because it's an important part of the process that we set students up for success. I mean, it goes back to the earlier comments that the students and the alumni were mentioning. It's not just about, it's one thing about granting students access, Gareth and Tracy, but it's an important part of what we do is granting students successful access into the program. And that's a key part of what we're offering. So it's the academic part that leads to success, but it's also, Teddy's role as well that leads to successful access, because I mean, it's a wraparound support of everything that we offer. But I mean, linked with that also, Gareth, you and I are involved in an interesting and exciting project in terms of what is now going to be called the initial assessment of competence, at least in 2026, and working out, what does, competence look like in the future. There's a question that was asked earlier on by a student, sort of, are CAs still relevant within the space of digital disruptions? And absolutely, CAs are still relevant. Yes, technology is going to be able to do the stuff, but somebody's going to have to be able to interpret that particular information, and that's the important part of the role of a chartered accountant of future. So there's still a place for CAs. And so Gareth and my role in terms of the IAC work group that we're on is looking at the skills of a CA of the future, and how then do we assess those skills of the future as it relates to the ITC or the IAC, and then also impacts on our program, at least in terms of our students and their general well-being.
And I think that's always been, I suppose, the aspect that's been important is that the world is evolving, and us as a program, they must evolve. If the students coming through our program, I suppose, must be relevant in the future of the country and the economy, then as a program, it's really incumbent on us to be relevant and adapt. And I think that's why it's just such fascinating work that we're doing with SAICA, kind of in making sure we are, I don't know what you call it, future-proof, and we can adapt and learn to all these sorts of things. So yeah, exciting projects. Honey, if we could...
It's a key part of what we do, hey Gareth, sorry. I mean, this notion of, learning, unlearning and relearning, it's going to be the future of what CAs are going to have to go through. And the space, I mean, one thinks about, Kirsten's story of going, going from becoming a food technologist or a food scientist, becoming a CA. Those are important skills, ultimately, that speaks to what CAs are going to do. Yeah.
And I think oftentimes we look very specifically at almost the future skills that we need to learn. But I think one thing that I love about the program is because it's community and relationally based, I think it also in a lot of ways mirrors the future world of work, in terms of we don't always all go to an office every day. We do work remotely. And so we need to build those skills in terms of discipline, in terms of interacting in online communities, face-to-face in real time, asynchronously, kind of in our own time, kind of after hours. And it's something that I've been fascinated to watch, just in terms of the different pockets of communities that evolve in the program. And I think then when our students step into the world of work, after having been in our program, I think I've loved hearing the stories in terms of students saying, wow, that community, I almost learned what it was to be a professional in an online community, whereas coming from other backgrounds that don't necessarily mirror that, it doesn't necessarily get that insight. I think we've had some really interesting feedback just from firms saying, wow, the new world of work, it's been quite refreshing to see the students coming from the Milpark program into the world of work and just being able to adapt quite well from what we've heard. Hani, could we bring back the alumni, if we could? I think it's thanks Rian and Terry, but I'm going to go back to kind of Zoe, Charles, and Kirsten, and I'm just going to throw this one out. I know they're going to pop up again just now, so I'll keep talking until they do. But I think also as we kind of move into the last 15 minutes of the webinar, I think There we go. I see Kirsten coming back, and I'm sure the other two will come back now. But Kirsten, maybe you can kick things off in terms of a few just like very practical questions in terms of like, man, Kirsten, you did full workload, 40 hours a week. You were also working. Like, what does that day look like? I think you went into a little bit of detail with it, but maybe you can unpack that a bit more in terms of, man, day one, I sit down at my computer, I've got access to the online platforms. Like, how does that go from there?
So
some of the people in the chat, Kirsten, were asking how early you got up in the morning, because you mentioned making
yeah, so the alarm went off at 3:30 to get to the desk at 4. And then typically on a Monday, it would start with the lectures of one of the subjects. I'd kind of look at the content on a Sunday night and see which one I would be prepared to tackle first. And then, so that happened for the first few hours of the morning. And then I would go to work and come back from work and probably 4:30-ish so that I could start and get back to my desk at 5. And from 5 to 7, I would then continue with the lectures, because I found the lectures, you have to pay attention, but I find I needed more focus for doing the questions. And then after that, I'd go to bed super early and then start again the next day. And then by Tuesday, I had gotten through a set of lectures, so that on the Tuesday morning, I could start by doing questions. And for me, the mornings are when I focus more. And I found that the questions required a lot more thought and a lot more thinking. And so then I would do that in the morning, and then the day would repeat until I got to the weekend. And the aim on a Friday afternoon was that I'd had at least finished all the lectures and had started the questions, so that I could still have a bit of a weekend, but then try and get through a couple more questions.
Sure, that's a hard work, especially while working, but that sounds amazingly disciplined. Zoe, if I come to you and you kind of compare yourself to kind of how Kirsten set that up. So just to remind us, everyone, you obviously did the half workload. So you were kind of, I suppose, looking more at about 20 hours of work a week, fitting around kind of being a mom and kind of working at the same time. How did your schedule sort of compare to what Kristen chatted through?
Okay, so I tried a few times to get up early, very unsuccessfully. So I scratched that. And I usually would only start at about 7, 7:30, purely because I also finished work at 4:30. Fortunately, I lived around the corner, so it was a quick drive. But then it's dinner, bath, everything, getting her ready for bed, putting her to bed. I must say I did have the very fortunate support of my family. I lived with them when I was studying, while I was not married yet. And that really, really did help. Any sort of support in general, whether you have a child, no child, is really important. Your family members should also be aware of your responsibilities and your commitments so that they can respect it. Not like, but why can't you come? Why can't you make it? They should understand. Sorry, that was deviating a bit, but I thought I'd just add that. And so I do the lectures in the week and then practice questions on the weekend. I actually scheduled time. Tuesday evenings, I had Bible study group. Sunday, I went to church. It was very important to me. Friday afternoon, because I finished work at 1, was my chill time. I used that to relax, do something nice, go for a walk with friends, or do my nails or whatever, because it's a long week, you're tired. Look, obviously not everyone has that availability, that possibility to do that, but even an hour of just making time for yourself is really important to avoid burnout, because it is a very, very tough course. But that's how my weeks looked.
And Zoe, I mean, you touched on a good point, and I'll kind of, Kirsten, you might want to comment on this as well, so I'll kind of leave it up to you in terms of who answers, or you both can if you want. But I think something that a lot of students wonder is almost the role that your work plays in your studying journey, and like how you facilitate a relationship with your firm in a way that allows you space in your life to be able to be successful in this. What was kind of your guys' narrative or journey with your employer in kind of explaining to them that obviously you're studying at the same time, and kind of their willingness and ability to kind of facilitate your studying journey?
I can try and answer this. So I think for me, I went into my articles with them knowing that I was going to be studying, and for the first few weeks, it was quite difficult to navigate this because a lot of the managers and senior staff didn't know that I was working and studying at the same time, so they would be asking me to do additional things, and obviously it's difficult to say no to your seniors. And one of my mentors actually gave me a very good piece of advice. She said to me, you just need to explain to them that you are studying and that you will get to the work, and just creating a boundary that at 4:30 or a little bit later, you turn your computer off and you just leave it, focus on studying for a bit, and then come back to it if you have time at the end of the day. And just, I think the open communication is key to all of it. But yeah, I was really lucky. Everyone was super understanding and very supportive of the journey.
And Zoe, from your side?
So I was very fortunate. There are pros and cons, but I worked at a very small audit firm. So it was we hardly ever worked overtime, and there's only one partner, and it was a bit of a nepotism-ish appointment, as he was best friends with my father. And he was really understanding about my studies, and he wanted me to pass and do well. I think he was wanting me to stay, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But I think open discussion, what we had in the beginning of the year, which is also another amazing thing about Milpark. You have your dates at the beginning of the year. You can go to your managers. It never really changes. The order might change, but it's always around the same time. You can, in the beginning of the year, go and say, these are my important times, and have, as Kirsten said, have an open discussion. If they are especially if you're doing your articles, they should know that you are studying, so they should have understanding that it is important for you to spend time on that.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear from both of you guys almost the importance of that open dialogue and that relationship with your firm, because it impacts on your time at the end of the day, and your relationship and your firm's willingness to work with you in the process is crucial. And it sounds like on one hand, you guys are very modest and you say you were lucky with your firms, but on the other hand, we can put it down to, I think, what sounds like good communication. And I think that's something we encourage all the students to do. And I think we've realized as a program that we need to work more closely with employers in terms of leave policies, in terms of understanding what our program looks like and how it works. And I think that's certainly a lot of the work we continue to do in the future, because I think our program doesn't look the same as other programs in terms of when tests are and that sort of thing. And I think just acutely aware of the fact that there are these important building blocks in our life, and the more we can align and get these things built in complementary ways, the more likely all of us are to kind of succeed. One of the last few things I'll touch on, because we are coming to the end of the time, and again, I'll kind of throw this out to any of the three of you in terms of almost all of our students, or actually all of our students, don't do their undergraduate at Milpark. We're changing that currently, which I think some of you guys might know, that we're launching our BCom Accounting at this year, and that's starting shortly. So in future, we're going to see students coming all the way up from the Milpark BCom Accounting and then into the PGDA. but that's only launching this year. So the three of you guys all came from different undergraduate universities. We've obviously got a lot of students that come from distance universities. We've got a lot of students who come from contact universities. We've got a real mixture and diversity of students. I'd be interested in your guys' comments around almost that jump from one institution to another, and almost that friction. And I suppose a lot of people are just thinking, wow, should I take the leap? What's the leap like? How am I going to bridge that gap from my previous institution? How did you guys experience it?
I think I can maybe start off. So I think the change for me, I wouldn't say there was really much of a jump. I do think that the course incorporates a lot of introductory stuff that you might not get if, let's say, for example, you at Stellenbosch and they know you're coming from third year. They know it's been taught in a certain way, so they can assume knowledge at a certain base. Where Milpark is aware of the fact that you've got students coming from a whole bunch of different universities, maybe even different countries, and you incorporate it in a way that's not building from the ground up per se. You're not just recovering all the work, but it is there, and there is enough information for you to bridge the gap between your previous institution and the level that you should be at for Milpark. And then the move from in contact to distance, I enjoyed that thoroughly.
Awesome. So, Kirsten, anything to add in terms of the jump from your undergrad to Milpark?
Gareth, if I can just look at it from a different perspective, because I know there's a lot of people that have had a study break where they haven't studied for a while, which was my situation. And what I found that, especially with the introduction, orientation, the live online lectures, the recorded lectures, it was a great way to get back into it on your own pace. Sorry, I know it's not answering your question, but I do know that there are a few students that are, or potential students that have taken a study break, and it is overwhelming. It is scary to get back into it. But I promise you, once you get going, all those study muscles come back. And Milpark is really, whether you're starting coming from a contact university, or whether you're coming from not studying for a few years, both ways are it's amazing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No,
do you mind if I jump in here? Sorry. Just that there are a lot of people in the chat, making connections, sharing locations, wanting to have that kind of study buddy support through the program, which is really wonderful to see. Zoe, I know that you were part of one of the quite famous study groups that we've had a few years back, quite a tight-knit group of people who studied, I think was it through Bridging and PGDA, or was both? You guys all moved together through the programs and had quite a lot of accountability on that process. Maybe I was wondering if you could maybe talk about that experience. A lot of people looking for support, looking for, are you in my area and can we connect? And in the group that you guys had, were you guys in the same geographic area? How did you connect? How did you find each other? And how did your support kind of complement the experience that you had in the programs?
So I actually joined the group after attending it was Mike's sessions at the time, not Terry Lee's. And I just wanted a buddy. I didn't necessarily want someone to study with, because I never found that beneficial for me. But I do know there are study groups that do physically study together, whether it's online, you watching, putting on your camera and literally just answering a question, knowing that person is there. So we actually used an app called Forest, where you plant trees, and it's basically just to track your time, to keep you from looking at your phone, and you put that time aside to focus on your studies. So you can plant trees together, and then, yeah, you just literally do your own thing, whichever subject you want to do, but you together. And I actually found when I started, because I did it in the second half of the bridging, I stayed up later. I did an extra question because I had someone with me. We were all over the show. So one of the I think he's he's finishing now in April. Greg, he's in Valcom. And then they were in Cape Town, they were in Durban, they were in Joburg. We were a few in Joburg. We actually met up once in Joburg. We were going to meet up in Durban when some of us were on holiday, but that didn't happen. But from our perspective, it was more chatting. And actually today it was funny. One of the members like, so he's now an academic, congratulations. And we actually haven't really spoken in a while, and it was just to still have that connection. It was really cool. And it was more like a buddy system than actually studying together. But that was my view. It was like your crew.
That's really awesome. Yeah, there are lots of ways that you can work it, but that group was particularly effective in terms of being together and supporting each other through the program. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
Tracy, anything else coming up in the comments? I see we pretty much at time. So guys, of course, if you need to leave, please feel free to drop off. But any kind of last questions that might be relevant for any of the panel, Trace?
I've just been keeping an eye on some of the comments. I think most of the questions have been, answered in Ask a Question space, and we will keep to answering that. I think there are a lot of questions coming through around specifics, about the live sessions that we offer, or the planner. And all of that information is available either on our website, or we're happy to provide you with more detail if you drop us an email at accounting.milpark.ac.za. You can get us all the time on that email address. Some people who are already in the process of applying and registering and who have made comments, it'll be a lot easier for us to assist you if you do reach out to us on email than posting in the comments here. I think we certainly want to help get everyone on board as quickly as possible. One or two asking about when the program starts. The PGDA is launching on the 13th, so that's relatively soon. That's next week, yeah. So we're very excited to have you on board. There is still time to join the program if you are eager. But yeah, Gio, are you happy to wrap up there?
Yeah, and also just to loop around almost to the objective of the session. Of course, this session wasn't meant to be exhaustive in providing kind of all the detail as Tracy said. And I think a good example was kind of what Tracy said, where there's a few guys in the chat kind of trying to figure out, are there other people in the same location as me, and that sort of thing. I think important, I suppose, to say that once you join the program, there's detailed orientation sessions that go far beyond the scope of this. We've got our Yammer communities. We've got various support and contact mechanisms that will allow you guys to connect. I think some of the biggest learnings I've had almost in just being involved in the program is how a lot of the work that we do is about trying to connect the students of the program, creating a healthy and lively community. And then once you guys are connected, there's a lot of stuff that you guys are able to do. And I think that's a lot of the work that we do. So please, I think don't see this as the last opportunity to connect to others and meet fellow students. This is the lifeblood of the program. We have these types of conversations all the time. Students always creating groups, study groups, buddy groups, mentorship groups. We've got a heck of a lot of this. So if you enjoy, I suppose, this sort of conversation, these are the types of conversations that we're going to continue having in the program. So it's by no means your last chance at all. I think the email address accounting@milpark.ac.za is really useful. We kind of almost always get back in 24 hours on that on working days. And then we've got lots of mechanisms like Charles spoke about, Yammer and Microsoft Teams and all that once the course gets going. So yeah, Trace, I think we can wrap up. I suppose also worth saying that the recording of the session will also be, I think, automatically emailed to you after the session. So if you do want to share this with anyone else who might have missed it, that's also
I think it's going to be available on our social media platforms, including YouTube. So it will definitely be readily available. Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's been a wonderful session. Charles, Zoe, Kirsten, thanks so much, and also to our other panel members, Rian, Terry. I've loved having this conversation with you. I'm looking down to the bottom of the screen and I'm seeing slightly scary numbers. I think we've uploaded people. So I hope you guys have also enjoyed it. It's been wonderful kind of having you guys part of the conversation. Thank you for your questions. And yeah, just excited for the program ahead and getting to know each of you better.
Yeah, super. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your time. We really do hope to welcome you onto the program soon. And yeah, please reach out to us. Thanks so much.